Hello and welcome back. This is A Lost Adventure, and today I'm going to be covering X1 The Isle of Dread. This adventure was designed for 6 to 10 characters of levels 3 to 6. That's right, I said 3 to 6. I know the cover says 3 to 7, but the introduction inside the actual book says 3 to 6. And it was designed as a wilderness adventure. This adventure was actually found within the Expert box set in not only the BECMI editions, but also the BX edition of Expert. Written back in 1981 by, David Cook and Tom Moldvay, otherwise known as David Zeb Cook, and, Tom Moldvay, the guy that created the BX series, that guy. And this module consists of about 32 pages, and of those 32 pages, 12 are for maps, and 4 is for the new monsters introduced in the module. This adventure is not linear in any form or fashion. It is definitely designed as an exploration adventure, with the main motivation for the characters being rumors of gold, pearls, and other treasures.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
Now, how you add this into your campaign is up to you. You can literally just drop a few rumors, have the players find a map, and if the players bite, you're off to the Isle of Dread. And this thing can take up like months of sessions. However, there is a setup provided by the book. Apparently, your players end up finding an old letter written by a Captain Barbarossa, which also has a map. And this map provides the PCs with a layout of the coastline and a point of civilization that this Captain Barbarossa found. Now, this civilization is all down here in this southern part, and it's separated from the main part of the island by a 50-foot wall. In this civilization, it's not very advanced. In fact, the only thing the PCs will be able to get here, well, actually, they can get almost everything they can from their normal place, just like normal adventurers, unless it's pretty much metal armor or two-handed, like pole arms, axes, and swords. Everything else they'll be able to get at these little points and villages down here. So, if your players are hoping to get their hands on some plate armor or a two-handed sword, I hope they brought one with them. On that point, any items the players have brought with them from the mainland will be worth double their value on this island, because the villagers will think of it as a extremely rare trade good they couldn't make here. So, it's sort of like it's imported. Anyways, your small horde of players have arrived at the Isle of Dread. They should probably head here to the villages, but they don't have to. But this is where the adventure is supposed to begin. But your players have free will, and this adventure is designed more as an exploration sort of adventure rather than a linear adventure. The players will have this as their reference, which is pretty much the coastline of the entire island, but the entire interior is blank, and you, as the DM, will have this as your reference. And if you'll notice, there is 24 points of interest on the DM's map. Before I go over those 24 points of interest, though, I should cover this. There is 3 random encounter tables included as part of this adventure, and you will have to, yes, you will have to, use them if you want the Isle of Dread to be run as it should. Each one of these random encounter tables happens in a specific section of the map. The first one is your usual assortment of fantasy monsters and is used south of the Great Wall. Nothing too fancy here, but it represents, that most of this area down here has been partially civilized. The second encounter table consists of a collection of Ice Age-ish monsters, along with a smattering of dragons and these things called Arania, which are magic-casting, intelligent giant spiders. This table is used south of the Central River, right here, and north of the wall. Now, usually you're supposed to roll on these encounter tables twice a day, once at the beginning of the day and once at the end of the day. However, with encounter tables number 2 and number 3, there is a specific point where they will run into an encounter. It's not random at that point. It's just an encounter is going to happen here off the table. And for encounter number 2, or random encounter table number 2, that is point number 4. If they are within 2 hexes of point number 4, they will have an encounter off of this table. Now the third table is the one that has dinosaurs, which we're all here for. They are encountered north of the Central River, and the list not only includes dinosaurs, but it also includes hydras, giants, and once again, you have dragons. And just like I said with Table 2, there is a specific point that the players will have an encounter off of Table 3. And that would be point number 23, where if they're within 2 hexes of point number 23, they will have an encounter off of this table. Now, beyond the encounter tables that I had to go over, or I just went over, there is one other important thing to know about this island. And it's that this section right here is a plateau. This plateau has 3,000-foot cliffs. Yes, 3,000 feet. For reference, I have included this picture. This is a picture of the El Capitan Cliffs that are found at Yosemite. The El Capitan Cliffs are 3,000 feet high, and if you'll see, I've put some little points of reference beside of it to just, show how ridiculously tall 3,000 feet is. This section, the plateau section, has its own separate map. I will go after it after I go over the main points on the main island. The main section, like I said, consists of 24 points of interest. I've gone over points 4 and 23, but for the rest I will go over by numerical order. But before that, I will go over how exploration works. When the players occupy a hex, which equals 6 miles, by the way, the player can see not only the hex they're in, but the hexes that surround the hex they're in. Unless they are in dense jungle or mountains, in which case they only see what's in the hex they occupy. Now, as to how far they move, that's going to be up to you. I personally have it so the players can move up to 3 hexes a day if they're on the trail. For jungle, swamp, and mountainous terrain, it's only 1 hex a day. And for everything in between those two, I say it's about 2 hexes a day. Back to the points of interest. 1 is the main village. A map is provided, and you will use this exact same map for each of the other villages down here. Each of the villages is represented by one of these black dots. 2 is a beach. If the players decide to go swimming in the waters of the beach, they'll get attacked by sharks. 3 is a bunch of sea snakes that guard a large cache of oysters that have pearls. 4 is a guaranteed encounter off of Table 2 if within 2 hexes. 5 is a cave of rock baboons. 6 is the lair of a giant squid, so if your players decide to roam around the island, they have a chance encounter with a giant squid. 7 is the pirates' camp. There is a map for this point, and there's 41 pirates that occupy this location. Now, there's not much backstory to it, but you can expand on this if you want to. I personally think the idea of having a group of smugglers, pirates / slavers right here kind of makes sense. They're plundering their island, but they're also here. I sort of have this idea that this is a location the players could go to if they want, more advanced equipment than what they could get from the villagers, but they have to pay a higher price. And then there's also the point of they're dealing with a lot shadier individuals at this point. 8 is a hippogriff nest. 9 is a Rakasta camp. There's nothing that's told what to do with the Rakasta camp, so that's up to you. 10 is a Phantom settlement. Now, maybe you're asking what a Phantom is. Apparently a Phantom is an intelligent, half monkey, half raccoon creature that glides between trees. It doesn't really say what they do, but apparently they're peaceful. And also, they are the favored prey of, I believe, the Aranea, the magic casting giant spiders. 11 is a lizard man lair. 12 is a Neanderthal lair. At point 13, the players were able to observe a statue, what looks like a statue, on top of a stony peak. This is not a statue. If the players get within 100 feet of the supposed statue, it will reveal itself as a gargoyle. And there's not just one, there's 3 that will begin attacking the players. 14 is the Aranea lair, the spellcasting intelligent spiders again. There's 3 of them, and this location actually has its own map too. 15 is the Pteranodon lair. There's a bridge here. Well, not really exactly on the point, but near it. If the players begin crossing the bridge, this is where the Pteranodons come in play and start harassing the players while they're crossing this bridge. 16 is the roost of a pair of rocks. The birds, the giant birds, not, like an actual physical rock. Now, they're not fully grown. They're 2 small rocks, but this is where the rocks are. Also, if the players kill the rocks and go up to this nest over here, they possibly can find a treasure map. 17 is where the players will stumble upon a mortally wounded native fighting a Dimetrodon? This thing. 18 is an ogre lair. 19 is where the PCs will run into an ankylosaurus that has apparently decided to ingest a patch of loco weed. If the players hang out in this area, there's also a chance they'll run into an allosaur. However, they really only run into the allosaur if they use the map they found at the rock lair, because as they investigate the map, it leads to this point, which is also where the allosaur's lair is. There's a roll for it. It's inside the booklet. 20. 20 is a green dragon's lair with a ridiculous amount of treasure. To get that treasure, they just have to defeat this fully grown ancient green dragon for it. They won't. The green dragon will kill them. Unless they're not dumb. Yes. 21 is the lair of a group of troglodytes, 17 of them. 22 is a plesiosaurus. Actually, I had to look this up. Google tells me that it said plesiosaur. This is a plesiosaur. Think Loch Ness Monster. The plesiosaur resides in this lake right here, and anybody that gets within 15 feet of the edge of the lake gets attacked by this dinosaur. 23 is the point that guarantees an encounter off of the random encounter table number 3 if they're within 2 hexes of this point. And 24 is a sea dragon. Yes, a sea dragon. Now, that covers what the book says is encountered on this section of the island. But frankly, there's a lot of open space here. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. You can add, a group of Cyclops living over here. You could run the entire set of adventures found in Jason and the Argonauts if you wanted to. Maybe create a temple to a Medusa. Whatever you want, you can almost fit it inside of here. Maybe even add a dragon cult that worships the green dragon because they're crazy. But that covers the main part of the island. Now to the plateau. This is where things get kind of... it doesn't really get difficult here. It's not that hard. To get to the plateau, there's 3 ways to get there. You can the players can either have the ability to fly up there some way or form. They can climb. This is greatly discouraged and pretty much says to have them fail. Even your best climber is supposed to take, I think, 30 separate climb checks, and even if he fails one, he just falls to his death and doom. And the one they're supposed to use is going to be the rope bridge, the one that I mentioned with encounter number 15. When they go across the rope bridge, they get attacked by the pteranodons, and the rest is history. They'll be at the top of this plateau. Now, here, there's only 5 points of interest, and one of the most domineering views the players will have here is right there in the center is a dormant volcano. Now, the 5 points. Number 1 is a gold vein. Yes, The players can mine a whole bunch of gold out of here. How they mine it and how they get out with it, up to you. You figure it out. 2 is a treant forest. Yep. An entire forest of treants. Well, not all of them, but there's a whole bunch of them that live here. 3 is the scalable cliff of the dormant volcano. This is actually intended to be scaled. They're supposed to climb it. And once they climb to the top, they can see that it's sort of like the interior of the volcano has become a lake. This is where point number 4 is. Point number 4 is a village that's on the shore of the lake. And if they go here and talk to the villagers, if they're able to get through the whole part where the villagers are initially hostile, like they throw spears at the players but have them fall short of them, hopefully the players don't kill all the villagers from that, because if they talk to the villagers will end up telling them about how they have been constantly getting attacked by a bunch of rogue natives that are coming from the temple in the middle of the lake. For you see, in the middle of the lake, there is a large ruined temple just calling for your players to go explore it, because it's definitely not some crappy native village made out of, sticks and mud. 5 is the island, and the island itself is called Taboo Island. Now, Taboo Island is a short dungeon crawl. It consists of about 3 levels, and on the final level, the players will have the chance to deal with the original rulers of the island, a race of amphibians called the Kopru. The Kopru have the ability to mind control others for an indefinite amount of time. All the signs of advanced civilization on this island that the players have run into are remnants of the civilization that the Kopru used to run, which is referred to as the Kopru Kingdom here. The Kopru obviously exist because I just talked about them, but in a much diminished state. It isn't really explained what happened, so that'll be up to you to decide if you want to expand on it yourself. Also, if you look inside of dungeon issue number 114, it sort of expands on the whole Kopru thing. Actually, Dungeon Magazine issue number 114 expands on the Isle of Dread in general, but we're going over this module, not the magazine. The villagers have pretty much, in general, with all the natives on the entire island, think of talking about the Kopru as taboo, and pretty much anything with the face of the Kopru has been defaced so it's unrecognizable. In fact, I would say that most of the natives of the island don't even know about them. Anyways, the final part, Taboo Island. There's 3 maps for this part, 1 for each level. Level 1 is where the renegade natives reside. All these labeled points of interest are mainly just descriptions. Like point number 1 is the remnants of what appears to be a giant ruined statue. You see the footprints; those are where the feet are. 3 is the main living area. To get to 3, the players have to go through 2. 2 is a bunch of rubble that have been intentionally placed there to force players to go through one by one. At the end of this hallway, they'll be ambushed by a group of level 1 fighters. This is the beginning of the fight. When they go inside here, they'll end up fighting the rest of the natives here. There's about 20 of them. Most of them are level 1, but there is 3 level 3 fighters, and there's the chief, who is a level 7 fighter, and these guys will be supported by a witch doctor, which is a 5th level cleric. 5 is a hidden room that your players may not find. Inside of this hidden room is a hidden trap door, which takes the players to the 2nd level. 7 is the more obvious way to get to the 2nd level, though it's not obvious at all, because what happens is your players walk down this hallway and it collapses underneath of them, dropping them into the 2nd level. The 2nd level is a mostly flooded section. If the PCs fell through the hallway, they'll end up here at point number 1, and if they use the hidden door in 5, they'll end up here at point 3. Most of these labeled here is a series of basic traps that are explained in the book. But area number 2 is of note because this is where a giant oyster is on the bottom. And this giant oyster holds the gigantic black pearl that is supposed to be worth 3,000 gold pieces if recovered. To get to it, the players have to swim to the bottom of this room and fight off a bunch of sharks. So there's that. Point number 7 on this map is how your players will get to the 3rd level. To get there, your players will have to deal with a suffocating fire trap that will also burn them if they don't suffocate. And to even get to the level, your players have to dive under the burning water that is trying to suffocate them also by filling the room with smoke, to pull a lever to open a gate that's underwater, which once they pull that off, the gate will open, suck all the players down it, and they'll take 2d6 damage as they pretty much get flushed into level 3. This section is just a giant, hot, steamy cavern. And this is sort of like the big ending for the Isle of Dread. It's not really a big ending. This adventure isn't designed as a linear adventure. This is just another interesting point for them to find. In here, there's not much. Point A is where they come out. Point C is like a hot water geyser. E is a fake path that actually collapses if they're on it. And all these gray areas over here that have bubbles pop of them are like these mud pools. The 2 sections labeled B is where 2 Kopru reside, 1 for each point. These Kopru will work together to secretly try and take over the minds of the PCs. And after they take over the minds of the PCs and use everything that they can to it, that's when they will reveal themselves and attack the players. Should they succeed, it's pretty possible. These things aren't weak at all. There are 8 hit die monsters with an AC of 3 with the ability to mind control players, like fully control them. They will also use the effects of the cavern to their advantage, like trying to trick players to getting close to C, which is where the water spurts out. Trick them to go on the path of E, where the floor collapses on them. They end up in this hot, steamy mud bath. There's other things that happen in this area. It's possible the players might get destroyed here, especially if 2 of the PCs are mind controlled and fighting the other players. But this is your big fight. The 2 Kopru along with whatever else is going on. And it has in here, like, if the players lose, the Kopru try and use them to take over the rest of the island by mind controlling the leftover players. And then start a whole new kingdom all over again. It's up to you what you decide to do with it. Having the PCs become the next big bads for your next Isle of Dread adventure sounds kind of cool, but it seems kind of hard to pull off. So be it. Point F up here at the top, that's it's a hidden throne, supposedly, but it's sort of like a throne that, like, stalactites and stalagmites have just finally grown over because of all the moisture and everything. A skeleton is stuck inside this throne, and the skeleton's wearing like a ring of telekinesis, and it's got a +2 sword that has the ability to it has the ability to cast Charm Person on an unintelligent creature. So Charm Monster? I think it's supposed to mean Charm Monster. You'll notice I didn't say anything about point D. It's because the D point is just there for the DM to create his own map if he wants to, that's connected to this cavern itself. If he wants to expand on it, like maybe add B1 onto here if you wanted to. And that covers X1, the Isle of Dread. Now, Moldvay and Cook have added a couple things into the back of the book. There is no, real adventure hook for the Isles of Dread other than, getting money. But they've added 6 different ideas for adventures on the Isle of Dread. The first one is destroying the zombie master. It's pretty much one of these zombie masters in one of the villages has gone crazy. And it's a tasking given to the players by the chiefs of the villages to put down the rogue undead. And by rogue undead, I mean the ones they don't control themselves, because each one of the villages actually has this thing called a zombie master that intentionally raises the dead ancestors to assist the village. So necromancy is actually accepted on the island as long as it's controlled by these zombie masters, I guess. They're used as extra laborers along with as spare warriors if ever need be. For this one, apparently one of them messed up or went crazy, and now the zombies are out of control. 2 is where a merchant prince offers to pay them to map the island because it's never been mapped before. 3 is a dinosaur hunt where the rich and powerful have hired the players to go hunt a powerful dinosaur. 4 is exterminating the pirates in the little pirate area where the players are hired to go kill the pirates, I guess. The next one is bring them back alive, where the players are tasked with bringing back a dinosaur or some other creature from the island and bringing it back to the mainland as sort of a zoo attraction. You could also do this as your players are sent to the island to rescue a group of previous adventurers or explorers that they lost communication with. It's an idea. And 6 is just a search for sunken treasure, where the players find a treasure map which gives them a description of the island and the location of a sunken ship. That one's all right, I guess, but that doesn't send you to the island. That's not really that different from the whole island adventure, where they're sent to the island because of rumors of vast amounts of treasure in it. But those are the 6 ideas that those 2 have given us for this campaign area. I like it. It seems cool. I mean, I have issues with the inability to get access to more advanced armor and equipment. I'm not talking guns. Just my characters, the ones that I make, like wearing chainmail and using a halberd. But apparently if I was in this campaign world, I wouldn't be able to access that unless I brought it. But to each their own. I will now rate this adventure. For an adventure rating, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. Not perfect, but pretty close. Big fan of it. Gives a whole lot of Keep on the Borderlands vibes. And there are points in it where it's designed as a way for the players to explore and figure out what their limits are. Because if your players are dumb and decide that, the DM put an ancient green dragon in front of me, that means we'll be able to defeat it, they're going to find out that they can't defeat it. It's a good adventure. It's a good learning experience. As for value, this is available print on demand. The print on demand copy is, I think, it's about $12. And if you want to buy an actual original copy on eBay, you can find them around $30 to $40. And as for deadliness, I will also give this a 4. So 4's down the line. It's a pretty good adventure. And it seems kind of fun, to tell you the truth. I've never been able to play in it, but it would be fun to play in. Now, as for the Isle of Dread, there are ways to expand on it. Like I said, in Dungeon Magazine 114, they do a little bit of an expansion on the storyline and everything else. However, Goodman Games released an entire book about this module, including its 2 different versions of prints. The one that you get print on demand is the first edition, which is exactly the same pretty much as the second printing. The second printing just has some different art, and I think they fixed a couple print errors inside of it. The Goodman Games book includes both copies of X1 and then includes their expanded storyline for the island, which is a great read. But once again, the Goodman Games Original Adventures Reincarnated series appears to be out of print now. So if you can get your hands on one, it might be worth it. And with that concludes this review. I hope this helps somebody out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.